let's start the August 1st meeting, and this one's going to be about macro photography. It's going to be the judges talking about the photographs we submitted over the last month. But first, this doesn't work, so I will do that. Well, actually, I think I need to, okay.
Okay, for next month's competition, the subject is showing motion. The idea is to have your image clearly demonstrate something in motion. Let the subject move, let the camera move, let your lights move. Intentional camera motion falls in this.
Move the microphone closer to your mouth.
Move the microphone closer to my mouth. I'm gonna have to get a lavalier. I'm not used to holding it up this close. But the whole intent is to capture an image that demonstrates that you're looking at motion. My classic one is to shoot a car moving with a stationary background. You get a background and a blur. On the website, we had some images of airplanes posted where we were looking at airplanes on approach. They were moving, but they were just suspended in the image because there was nothing to show motion. There was no blur. When the airplane was landing and looking 90 degrees to it at a background, you could see motion. You could see motion blur in the background, tracking. That's one kind of camera motion. Intentional camera motion, one of the common ones is aspens, where you slow your shutter speed way down and you move the camera vertically and you get this beautiful blur of grays and blacks and yellows and oranges. So another example would be a position where you know the subject couldn't be there without motion. For instance, a basketball player dunking a ball. If your hand's up here and your feet are 2 feet off of the floor, you're in motion. So all of those would be acceptable images for motion. Any questions? All right, let's see. Third Thursday, Patrick's going to talk about. We have a fifth Thursday this month. I would like to have suggestions from members on where to go. If not, if we don't get some suggestions, we'll default to either Prost or Victory Tap. Yes, sir. So I didn't. That's third Thursday.
It got moved to third Thursday. That's the next slide. And so then the fifth Thursday is now opened up for.
Patrick, you want to come on up and talk about?
Hi there. So we're going to meet at Art Direct up in Cedar Park, okay? And we'll meet there at 7 o'clock as we would normally do, as we would meet here. And Brent Howard, who is the owner or co-owner, I guess, whichever, he's agreed to have, he'll be there to talk about the company, what they do, how they do it, and what have you. And then he's got his printing technician will be there to answer any and all questions that you may have. So they've got a very wide array of what they can do. They can, I guess part of their name being Art Direct is they actually will take art, make copies of it, and then make giclée prints for the artist to be sold, so that they're very nice. And I was just up there today getting some prints put in for to get printed, some images up there to get printed. So the location is on South Bell Street. And for those of you who are not familiar with Cedar Park, I believe the easiest way to get there is the Crystal Springs exit if you're coming from down here at the south. And you go out and you get to South Bell Street, turn right, and don't go more than about a block or two and turn right again. And they're back off the street. It's an industrial area, but you'll be able to see their sign. It's on the front of their building. If you're coming from the north, such as I would, take 1431 and come over and then pick up 183 or South Bell Street on the other side of the toll road, and then come down, same kind of thing. It's obviously going to be on the left. But I was over there, Brent said that he will have a charcuterie board of sorts. So I said, you don't need to spoil us, we're just coming, we'll buy prints anyway. So, but he says, no, we're gonna have some kind of nibbles and munchies. So hope everybody can make it. I told him we would probably have 10 or 12, which is kind of what we normally do for an outing. So if we have more than that, he's happy. He wants to get the name out and he wants to get people in. And if you do your prints there, which I thought Bill had mentioned this some time back about getting a discount. I misunderstood the discount. Register yourself as an artist with them or photographer. They call us artists. Isn't that nice? And you get a 30% discount on what you have printed and framed. There's only one thing that they won't discount, and that is if you bring an original artwork in and they have to photograph it. They don't discount that, but we don't normally do that kind of stuff. So to give you an idea, I'm having 16 by 20 prints made on a very nice matte paper, archival print in ink, and the cost after tax is about $15 a print. So it's really nominal compared to some of the other places that we've been to. And if you just wanted to, I asked him, I said, will you do like 8 by 10s for people who do portraits for people? He said, yeah. So if you're doing, check them out, see if it works for you. So. Give me that.
For those of you who have been to the brewery in Pflugerville, which is called, not Victory, what was the other one? Prost. Bill has some prints on the wall that he had done at Art Direct, metal prints, and they are fantastic.
They are not metal, they are metallic paper.
Metallic paper.
On gator board.
But they were done by Art Direct.
Yes.
And they look great.
They're beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah.
I take it that you will not be live casting the August 15th. You have to be there in person to be.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So no Zoom on the 15th.
Right, yeah, it's not going to be live, simulcast, so sorry about that. The Olympics will be over. That's right, you got to show up to get the charcuterie board. You can't just sit at your desk and watch and eat your cheese and drink your wine,
Well, I know some that have that at home and are prepared to stay home.
We see you at home. We know that you're having your glass of wine right now, so. But, okay, so that's what we're doing 2 weeks from tonight. So, yeah, hope you're there. Thanks.
And 2 weeks from that is the just fifth Thursday meetup. I would like to hear suggestions on where default will be Prost or Victory Tap in downtown Pflugerville.
Okay, now we're going to get an update about the Jester show.
So the Jester show, we're supposed to hang in October, which means we've got to start thinking seriously about what we're going to put up. I believe there's a website or webpage on our site now for that, where you can submit what you want. We want to encourage people who haven't done shows before to submit work. There is a lot of room here, and yes, Bill could fill it all up by himself, but that's not what we want.
Barry can fill it up by herself. I'm only about 20 or 30%.
We know. But seriously, for those of you who haven't submitted before, we have frames if you need frames. They're 16 by 20 that'll mat down to 11 by 14. So there's a limited number of those if you want that. There is plenty of room, but we need to start moving on that. Email me and let me know if you're interested in about how many prints you want to submit, and we can start organizing this. Okay? And at Art Direct, I have had a metal print made, and it was outstanding. So.
Okay, I assume that someone, it may end up being me, will send out an email about this, but basically we have another competition, it looks like, set up where you can add your pictures, but it's not really a competition, it's just so that there's a place to put all the pictures. I think that there was some, this just hasn't been sent out yet. We made this a while ago, but it hasn't really been distributed. But so as I understand it, you're going to ask people to put the picture, but also say what size their pictures are, which will help you decide on how they can be hung there or something. There was some talk early on. Is that, anyway, we'll figure that out. An email will come out probably later this week, let's say.
Don't box yourself in.
And so there will be a place, but I think that in the name you'll have to say what size your print is, but you're going to send a digital one, and then it's not that there's a competition, but there will be, it's not necessarily that there's going to be room or that every picture will be used, but they can select and say which one, and right now we say you can submit up to 5 pictures is what we have.
I think the issue I remember the last time I did Chester was they asked for picture size, and I saw people, give the frame size, and then some people gave the actual image size.
Right.
And so it was just
I'm sure that the email will have that explained on what they want.
I hope so.
And that email will have a link. But if you just go to the site now and you just go to the active competitions, there is this other one that's about Jester that no one knows what to do with, but when this email comes out, everyone will know what to do. All right, so now I guess that we can get started. Is there any other stuff that we need to talk about before we get into the competition? I think that's it. And that's way more than I knew that we were going to talk about. Okay, so in the basic category, we had 4 images. I'm going to go through, I'll get them, but turn down the lights. We'll just go through these 4 quickly, then we'll have the judges talk about them. So tasty egg rolls, a rosy view, little blue rock with cactus, or cacti, and Mataville in bloom, I guess.
This was mine. I loved it. I really thought it had a lot of texture. It had a lot of interest.
You might need to get the microphone around so that it can go or hold it, yeah.
Had a lot of interest. It had texture. I liked the color. The thing that threw me off that I had the hardest time with was the little, right on the 3rd egg roll to the right there. No, next. The green didn't bother me. This area right there. There we go.
Don't click.
This was all out of focus, and it was just very dominant in the picture. And that's the one thing that threw me off. I really enjoyed the photo. I thought it had a lot of interest and had a lot of positive, but it was that one thing that threw me off a bit.
Yeah, the focal plane of the image seems to be different than the focal plane of the subject. In other words, the camera's focal plane isn't a parallel plane with the subject. Another little flaw in this is the bit of green and red in the middle egg roll on the bottom row. Gary, go ahead and let's talk about this one, and then I think you and I probably both have bits and pieces to talk about in
Yeah,
general.
so I agree with John. The texture is fabulous, and the egg rolls look yummy. So, I mean, that's a very successful aspect of this image. So I'm all about that. But the focal point is, I think the focal point is the texture, the caramelization, the yumminess of the egg rolls, and the problem is these things right here distract from that. My eye keeps landing on that green thing, all right? I'm assuming it's a piece of vegetable inside the egg roll. And so instead of enjoying the entire thing, I'm looking at that one spot. And I don't think that's what the maker intended, unfortunately, but it's where I land. Anything else?
I'd like to make some general comments about macro photography in general. It's a tough row to hoe. You're getting close to pushing the limits of your camera and of the photographer. You, in general, have full control of your subject. It's something you chose to put in front of your camera or spent a lot of time looking for in the wild. And this is an opportunity to push the ability of your camera. And looking at the metadata of most of the images here, rarely did the photographer push their camera. And we had a few images that were clearly had light added, flash added to them. And they are, in general, better illuminated and show more of a macro image than those that are shot in natural light.
Okay.
You got your 2 bits, regular 2 bits worth, Gary?
Pardon?
Do you have your regular 2 bits worth?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
So a rosy view. This one is mine. Okay. Great color, fabulous palette, because we have the green and the orange. It's very limited in the palette, the yellows and the greens. They're not contrasting. I forget, they're associative though. They're all over in the same part of the color wheel, and it's just fabulous. I think the maker did a great job with the focus and picking up the texture of the petals, and I'm assuming that's a leaf. And the way the maker turned the blossom to emphasize that, again, leaf, I guess, I think is brilliant. And the fact that it's at an angle is super. Overall, I think an extremely successful image. I don't like the title because title implies rose. So I'm not feeling the title, but that's really my only complaint about this image. I think it's super.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful image. It's beautiful. Only slight issue I would have is how the stem's going off into the corner there. It would be nice if it was a little bit over to the side, but other than that, I think it's just a beautiful shot.
The photographer did a nice job with light. It's well controlled. There's just the slightest hint of hot spots. The background was allowed to go completely black. Very nicely done. This photographer is going to have the opportunity to move up at least one class in the future.
Very cool.
Little Blue Rock. It immediately lets you know what the subject is. I was immediately drawn to it. And then as I started to look around, the rock didn't meet the level of sharpness I was anticipating. There's sharpness in other parts of the image, the cactus, the granite gravel, but nicely exposed, good overall. Either this is a harsh sunlight that's on this, or it's a strobe that illuminated it. I would have liked to have had metadata from the camera so we could have a little more information here. Again, this is one of the images that made me think about camera focal plane, sensor plane of the sensor versus where you won't focus in the image.
So yeah, I agree with Bill in that I think the maker wants us to see the rock, to look at the rock and all those cool patterns in the rock, and the rock isn't really super in focus. There are spines over on the left that are in focus. So this is hard. I mean, I've done shots like this. I've been beaten up about them. So it's hard to do this without focus stacking to make sure that your intent is very clear. What I think is really super about the image is the color of the rock. That blue is beautiful. Just everything. It's beautiful, and then the hints of red and the white, and then you've got the pinks and the oranges and the pebbles on the right, and then the yellows and greens in the left. So there's a lot of really successful elements in this image, but nailing the focus on the thing you want the viewer to look at is absolutely critical when you're doing any shot, more so with macro.
I agree with everything that's being said, especially the rock's just beautiful and the texture in it. The one thing that threw me off was it's little blue rock with cactus, and so much of the cactus was out of focus and soft. I just wonder if a little bit, a tighter crop on the rock, or maybe a vertical crop on this, where you're taking off a little bit of as much of the emphasis on the cactus that's out of focus would have helped. I loved it. I just thought the textures were great. The contrast was good. Everything was good. It's just my eye kept being drawn to the cactus a little bit out of focus.
Yeah, I think just one other comment. I think also in this one that the thirds, the vertical thirds, are maybe not ideal for this image. This might have been a great opportunity to tilt that rock and use that rock as a primary diagonal in the frame, enclosed by the cacti and the pebbles, possibly. I wasn't there. I would encourage the maker to work the scene.
I would encourage the maker to go back and shoot this, probably because they still have it in their pocket, virtual pocket, and possibly put it on a bed of sand where the background does not distract from the beautiful rock, and work getting tack sharp focus on that. Stop down, use a long shutter speed, use higher ISO if you need to, get a light source.
Cool rock. Yeah. And Sean.
This was mine.
Yeah, want it again? Okay. That's what I got here.
Yep, you own it.
Thanks. Beautiful color, flowers nice. I just feel there's some focus issues. I like the boku in the back of the background's nice. There's a good contrast between the flower and that. It's just my main issue is the focus, and maybe the crop's in a little bit too tight. So I do much to say.
I'm not as expertise as these guys, so mine is short.
So yes, the striking color. The red is rich and vibrant and eye-catching, and that's I think what the maker intended. It's fantastic. What's missing is focus. I don't know what was supposed to be in focus here. I feel like the entire blossom is soft. Even down into the throat of the flower. So maybe this point up here, I'm not sure. But like you said on the last one, you as a maker, you need to make sure that what you want the viewer to look at is what's in focus, and your job is to guide the viewer there through the way you shoot the subject as well as you post-process. And while there are a lot of strengths in this image, I don't know what it is I'm supposed to be looking at.
Well, I think what you're supposed to be looking at is a big red flower.
And maybe that's it.
But the big red flower is lacking sharpness. But it's nicely separated from the background with focus. But the maker left a lot on the table for this image because it was shot at f2.8 and 1/100th of a second. And for a 60 millimeter lens, that's quite fast enough to handhold. So stopping way down f8, f16 could have probably brought a lot of that flower into focus. And then it would have been a significant improvement of the image because you would have focus in your subject and still have the background as a complete blur.
So I'm going to reiterate on the f-stop, the aperture. We hear a lot about chromatic aberration, that you shouldn't stop down too far because of a risk of diffusion or chromatic aberration. And the fact of the matter is you can go to f16, f18 with our current optics and sensors without really any major problem. So don't be afraid to go at a very tight aperture, raise your ISO, get things in focus, and then deal with noise in some other way by adding light, post-process, whatever.
And this appears to be a 60 millimeter lens, which I think is a Canon macro lens.
Let's see, he's got
I've got it here, Gary.
Okay.
So if that's a macro lens, it will go to f22 easily without showing diffraction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're going to hear us mention the aperture, I think, a number of times here tonight. Opportunities lost in some of these shots. I'm also going to point out the cropping here. I feel like the cropping doesn't feel intentional. The pedal at the top, the pedal at the bottom, I don't think that's what we generally want. I think most of the time we want some space or want to crop so that it's very clear. We meant to focus in on things. So either the crop is not loose enough or not tight enough here. But I don't think this is the crop you want in order to accomplish your goal as I perceive it looking at the image. I could be wrong.
Okay, I just jumped forward one.
We already saw it.
So right now, this is going to be, we only have one image that's a judge's choice because we only had 4 images. So first place goes to Leslie. Do you want to say anything? They can hand you a microphone. Oh, tell us all about it.
So I took this at an arboretum outside of Philadelphia, and not much to say. I mean, macro's hard for me. It's just, so I was happy to get I love the colors in this, which is why I picked this one. But yeah, it's tough, so thank you.
All right, thanks.
That's it.
Did you use a strobe with this?
Okay, and now we'll go with the viewer's choice. This bronze goes to Clay. Were they delicious? Would you like to say anything?
Well, thank you for the yumminess of picking that up, and your good critiques. Good critiques. I appreciate the feedback. I'll do a little more touch up on the green and the red, and those are my wife's egg rolls for Chinese New Year. Always love them.
Silver goes to Shirley.
I just took this in my greenhouse, and so it was natural light, I guess, kind of diffused light. And I just liked the colors. I thought the rock didn't really look that impressive until I did the macro, and then it just really kind of popped. So I kind of like that.
And the gold medal goes to Leslie. All right, we've got 13 intermediate images, so we'll go through those quickly, and then we'll go back through them with the judges' discussions. Slugging along. What's up? A new generation. Yellow and red. Red-eyed tree frog. Blue dasher dragonfly. Why boards go bad. Golden butterfly Inagata de Vida. Anemone 2? Anemone. Okay, whatever. 120-year-old railroad watch. cat's eyes. Probably not technically perfect, but beautiful anyway. They're already anticipating these strict judges. Flamingo red. And here we go.
Okay, slugging along. This one is mine. We had a lot of fun talking about this one. There's a lot of really great stuff here, people. It's fun month. So we didn't necessarily see eye to eye on every aspect of this. I'm going to tell you what I thought about the image from where I sit, which is that I like the focus here. I think the choice, or getting and apparently they're called antenna, his little eye stalks, and what is a face, I'm using the word very loosely here, in focus, is, I think, super. I always have trouble with these little guys when I shoot them in snails and what have you. So I really appreciate that. I think it's what you want in focus for this particular animal. The color and the body, I think, is captured, so we get to see something that's a little unusual for Texas. Obviously, it's Olympic Peninsula. We know it's not local. The depth of field, we disagreed on. I'm okay with this depth of field. It's a little on the shallow side, but what I think needs to be focused is in focus, so I find that successful. The brightness of lichen, whatever the green stuff is around it, is distracting to my eye, and so I would encourage the maker to think about where you want the eye to land. Bright things and high contrast things always come first. So when you've got this whiteness in the face, but all this bright green, it's competing, right? So tone down that bright green through luminance or desaturation in the yellows and greens to get the focus off of that, so that it's all there. Or use a vignette, right? A circular filter in a vignette and darken things around the face. Angle is maybe not ideal, but they don't pose well for you, so you do the best you can. We lose the eye stalk in the body in the background. I like the depth of field from a separation perspective, but I think that the maker could do more to enhance this image. I think that's there were some things left on the table. So I'll stop there.
First off, I loved it. I mean, it's I don't know, it's beautiful. The subject matter to me, I love seeing it. The things that left me a little bit off was the face was perfect, it's beautiful focus, but so much of the body behind it was competing with the face. It would have been nice if there was a way to get that more in focus. And I understand it was probably taken out in the field. I see it was taken with a, I forget, what was it? 180 millimeters, so it was taking a little bit of distance, so you had a depth of field issue there. I agree also with the brightness in the foliage is a little bit distracting. I mean, I hate having anything negative to say about it because I love the slug.
It's fun.
It's beautiful. It really is fun. It's just, I think, a little bit of the softness in the back of the body and the brightness in the foliage threw me off a little bit, but otherwise it's just, wow, I enjoyed seeing it. Thank you.
A nice image, and you just, first glance, you like it, and then you look at the effort the photographer put in to capture this. I'm looking at the wrong place here. Shutter speed is way low to get the exposure. Stop down to f8, working on getting some depth of field. Probably could have gotten another stop in ISO to just give you that, and trade that ISO for aperture to get you a little more depth of field. If I had the depth of field on this image, I would like to see more focus in the body and either probably edit to remove the sharpness and the brightness in the green foreground so that the foreground looked more like the background, which would have this little guy just standing out there proud and beautiful. what's up? This guy is just tack sharp. You've got one eye looking at you that is just as sharp as you're ever going to make it. And believe it or not, this was shot at a fairly open lens, f7.1. Shot at a higher shutter speed than probably necessary for the little lizard, 1/800th. ISO is down at 640. You've got room to get more sharpness if you needed it. This image isn't really challenged for sharpness in the subject. Everybody just has to like this little guy as you look at it, but as you look around and you let your focus go off the subject, the green rectangle is a distraction. It's too perfect a rectangle, and it's just a different color. And I'm not sure how I would have corrected this in post. I think making a solid yellow background might be overwhelming. Gentlemen?
So yeah, what he said. Yeah, having a recent experience in chasing an animal around a garden in Houston a couple months ago, I appreciate how difficult it can be to get a shot at one of these little guys because, again, they don't pose well. They don't take direction. I would encourage everything Bill said about focus and the composition, the angle, the colors. Outstanding. I mean, just so much good stuff here.
Let me squeeze in one bit here, Gary.
Yeah.
This was shot at 500 millimeters, and this is a good way to go after small subjects in the field.
Yeah, because you
use a long lens. They focus closer than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, using a long lens at 5 feet is a lot of fun. You don't need a macro lens necessarily. But so much about this is good. I agree with Bill on that rectangle in the corner is problematic. The question is could the maker have moved around and worked the scene a little bit more, but maybe they did and couldn't get the eye in focus. I don't know, I wasn't there. I think this image is a reminder to always look at your background. Right, is be aware of what's behind your subject. And maybe you're moving a left to the right or up or down or whatever, just a tiny bit to change what's happening. Maybe even if the square was lesser, right? If there was yellow and then the square, maybe that would be more satisfying. I don't know because I didn't make the image that way, but I'm just working with what I have here. But we're nitpicking. Lots of good stuff here. It's a beautiful, well-executed image of an animal, and it's wonderfully successful.
The better the image, the more we're going to try to find nits.
That's what we're here for.
And I agree with everything that's being said. The lizard is beautiful, just tack sharp. Everything's wonderful. The one thing I would add that was a little distracting for me was the brightness of the yellow was possibly a little overwhelming. If it could have been toned down a little bit in post. And of course, the background was the only issue with this. And it just was, beautiful.
Some light in the eye.
Oh, and a little light in the eye.
Yeah. The strobe would have given you a catch light, even if it didn't give you much more.
Yeah. Cool. Who's cut the grasshopper? Is that John?
That's John.
Yeah. Yep, that's you. New generation.
This one breaks my heart a little bit. It just, when I saw this, I thought, wow, that's insane. It's just beautiful. And then as you started looking into it, the softness in the eyes, in the antennas, and then the stick started taking away from the picture a little bit. Overall, it's just spectacular. It just is, the lighting, the backlighting on this was gorgeous. And the grasshoppers were wonderful. 3/4 of the stem was just had so much texture and interest to it. It just the only place that I had issues with was a little bit on the sharpness in the eyes and the antenna, and other than that, it's just wonderful.
looking at the metadata, stop down, F18, getting some depth of field, you can see that very clearly in the little stick they're on. But the point of focus, I'm not certain where it is, but the stick is extremely sharp, and the little insects just lose a bit of sharpness as you look at it. And now that I'm kind of looking at it from an angle here, I'm not sure what the background was, but I like and think that the solid background worked with these little guys. But there's a dark spot in the bottom left-hand corner that's just a little distracting. It just, once you notice it, you can't not see it.
Okay. I don't, everything they said, yeah, I saw this and I thought, oh God, baby grasshoppers, this is awesome, you know. And then I looked and it's like, oh, the plane of focus is not where it needs to be. This is hard to do. The very challenging subject, beautiful composition, beautiful moment. You know, the little hairs on the legs and stuff that are in focus are fantastic. So the outline, the silhouette, if you will, is wonderfully successful. But we want those eyes to be in focus, and that's where we're a little, I think, let down here. I would encourage the maker, in this particular case, turn on continuous shooting on your camera, whatever the speed that is. Back up a little bit and just hold that shutter down and move yourself forward through, and let that plane of focus wander through. Okay, you don't have to use all of them to do focus stacking, but you can find the one that gets the thing you want in focus and use that one, rather than just trying to. It's a technique we maybe should.
We should probably spend some time teaching.
Yeah,
that.
so more technical stuff. But there are ways to manage this situation that will help you get what you want. And it's like, I don't know where they found this, but it's so cool. I love it. You know, it's awesome.
And a good choice of aperture and shutter speed.
Yeah, technically
nice.
Great. Absolutely. You know, yeah, cool stuff. So.
Somebody did some real serious looking for a subject. Spent time in the field finding that subject.
Yep, okay. Yellow and red, this one is mine. So I think I found that the color palette here was tremendous. The focus is good. The problem is that it's a flower. Okay, it's not that it's not a good flower. It's a good flower, but it's a flower, and I feel let down that the maker, I don't think, was successful in imparting to me what it was about the flower that the maker wanted me to look at and to observe and to feel what they were feeling, okay? And this is the challenge of photography, is you see something that moves you, it's cool, you're like, I love this, I want to take a picture of it, and I want other people to see to experience what I'm feeling now, right? And making the photograph that does that is the challenge, okay? Technically, there's great stuff. The colors are great. You know, I like all the detail here, but being compositionally centered, straight on, it's like it's technically just fine. It's compositionally. I don't feel what the maker was feeling, and so I would say it's unsuccessful in that aspect, even though there are a lot of very successful elements.
Pretty much agree with everything Gary said. The center was a little bit distracting, and it's so dark. Maybe it would have been nice to lighten that up a little bit. I question if there was more flower that could have, if the crop could have come out a little bit more and expanded a little bit, if that would have been possible. It's beautiful. I mean, everything's in focus. The pollen's beautifully focused. A little bit of softness towards the bottom, but it doesn't really distract that much from it. Beautiful colors. It just leaves you a little bit wanting more, maybe.
Looking at this and looking at the metadata, I would have probably gone the other way from John. I would have probably gone in even closer and maybe left out most of the petals. Get in on the fine details. It looks like the maker had a lens that was capable of getting in nice and tight. But did a good job of using the equipment at hand.
Okay. This is Bill's, right?
Red-headed frog. I could not take my eyes off of this little guy as soon as I brought up the grid view of these images. Nice exposure, well controlled with the strobes, and it's very clear to me that there's strobes here. The ISO, the shutter speed is 1/200 on a Nikon camera. That's your best shutter speed when you're shooting the strobes, unless you're going to do fancy stuff. It looks like it was shot with ring lights, one above and below. That allowed the background to go completely dark. On the screen, it's black just above the frog. In looking at the laptop here, there's a lot more color coming down closer to the frogs. So there's a layer of green background behind all the red. The exposure was nailed on the white throat of the frog. You can see some gray shadows. There's nothing blown out there. There are a few highlights that are distracting along. Gary, you can point them out. That one and one down to the lower left. And then there's one point on the leaf right up there. It's got a white tip on it. And that draws my attention, and that could have been easily replaced with black, and you'd never notice it. But this is a stellar image, went out working to create this kind of image. Gary?
Okay, so yeah, fantastic colors, the palette. Again, the palettes we're seeing tonight seem so thoughtful and well executed. So the red and the green here, bit of white, bit of yellow is fantastic. Everything Bill said. For me, I think basically this entire area down here is not adding anything to the image. This is I believe a 4x3 crop. So it's 4 tall, 3 wide, and I'm not convinced this is necessary, and I think that this has got beautiful texture up here, but I don't know that it's necessary. So it would be interesting to see this as a square crop that lost those leaves at the bottom and really just tightened up on the subject, because we get it's a bromeliad. We don't need to see all the details of the bromeliad. We care about the frog, right? So let's focus on the frog and get rid of extraneous real estate in the image. But again, nitpicking, lots of cool stuff here. Okay, is this me? That's
Yes.
you. Blue Dash your Dragonfly.
Okay. Beautiful, beautiful focus on the face and on the eyes. It really draws you in, and has the whiskers and all and the eyes just beautiful. The coloration's nice. Where I lost a little bit is the distracting, where you have the, number one, I think there may be a little bit, for me, not saying that it's too much, a little bit too much of the out of focus wings.
Use the mouse to point.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Screen.
The out-of-focus wings are just taking up so much of this photo. But then also, if you notice right up at the top here, these come into focus. So it kind of is like a little bit of a distraction, kind of going out of focus and back into focus. Also, I think that the base here was a little bit distracting, as much of the base that was done there. I personally wonder if a tighter crop on this, to bring it in a little bit tighter, would have really enhanced it. Also, maybe straightening the dasher a little bit, so he's a little bit more vertical. But it's lovely, it's beautiful.
Yeah, bad choice for the stick for the Dragonfly to sit on. It just ends, the texture in it and the seam draws your attention because it's one of the sharper things in the image. I would have liked to have seen a little more focus in the eyes. These little guys are hard to get close to, particularly with a 100mm lens. But the maker did a nice job of getting down to f11, stop down to f11, and enough shutter speed to probably stop this guy if he's not beating his wings, or I'm not certain, there could be a strobe in this because of the shutter speed being at 1/200 on a Nikon. Another comment, if this was something that was placed to attract the Dragonfly, there could have been a little more intent in the background, because there's this dark rectangle that once you kind of look around and start looking at the edges of the image, it's hard to forget about that guy.
Okay. So I think that everything they said, this background is, they show you here is a bit of a problem. So, you know, a broken record here, work the scene, right? And maybe this is the best out of a bunch, I don't know. Just a reminder to work the scene because, well, besides something I forget, you know, and I think we all can use reminders like that. The focus is great. What John said about the wings here, it's for lack of a better word, it's a little weird seeing the Dragonfly like this. I'm going to say the maker used a 105mm lens, and to get this level of magnification on a 105 means that the maker was very close to the Dragonfly, which is awesome because they like to run away. So I think there's probably a lot of patience involved in waiting for the Dragonfly to keep coming back to a spot that it wanted to land on. I don't know whether, I guess a strobe was used, so working this guy my eye keeps landing down here, so working this guy to take away the emphasis and the bright spot I think would be helpful. That said, color palette, love the color palette. I think it's fantastic. I think everything works really well, and I think that I think whoever did this has some technical chops, and they should explore those more. Okay. My boards go bad. Okay. So we had a extended discussion on this, and so I'm going to try to not cover everything. I'm going to start with saying, and I think it was Ansel Adams who said, I will take a fuzzy picture of a clear concept over a clear picture of a fuzzy concept any day. I'm paraphrasing, all right? And so I'm saying that because I think there are some technical shortcomings here. I love the story. I think the story's great. It's fun. I think it's very clever, and I think the maker probably had a lot of fun making this. Compositionally, the diagonal lines formed by the circuit board are fantastic. Placement of the figures is good for the two in the center. We had some discussion over this guy being a little bit too close to the edge and drawing your eye to the edge and out the frame. Okay, so I'm not sure if we're not right about that, we're not wrong. We're just saying that maybe that's a thing that might be attended to. The use of this as a background, I think, is very clever. This large EEPROM maybe back here. Pardon?
Dip.
Okay, thank you. It's a capacitor. I know what a capacitor is. Don't hear.
No, not you. The package is a dual inline package.
Okay. The plane of focus wanders through here. So we've got things that are in focus, all right? These figures, I believe, are in focus. The problem is they don't have the detail that compares to the circuit board. Okay, so they don't hold up technically when it comes to crispness. I'm not saying that they're a bad thing. They're great, but technically they fall short when compared to the details in the pins, et cetera, okay? And I don't know if there's a solution to that, which is why I started with my opening statement. They're not crisp. I don't care. I like the story. I think it's very clever, and so I find the thing very successful. Lighting, red and blue lighting, fantastic. I would ask the maker to get rid of this thing down here. Okay, that's distracting to me, but I think there's a lot of things here, and it's like this is fun.
I agree 100%. It was just a lot of fun to look at, walk at. You spent time with this. It did its job, which kept you engaged, kept you thinking, kept you in the picture looking. I do have to agree the little workers, just whether they're just didn't have any detail in them or they're a little bit soft, that was distracting because they're a main element in there. And I'm the one that felt that it took off a little bit off to the right with that worker over there, and then that, whatever that little piece is.
Inductor? Is it inductor?
Inductor, okay.
Which
Off
piece
this,
are we pointing at?
right here.
That looks like it's a connector.
Connector then.
Oh, okay.
Goes a little bit off the screen, so that takes your eye off the screen a little bit. I love the picture. It was so much fun looking at and watching it. Just a few things on there that I had a hard time getting past, but all in all, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun.
Technically very nice. You can, other than the angle, the text on the IC packages is legible. You can see it easily. Perimeter control, border patrol would be a good thing here, but from my point of view, there's so much detail, so much sharpness in all of the components on this board, and then you want to see the characters that have been added, and they're missing detail in their face. We're over here looking deeply into the image, expanding it, and I'm going, okay, what did we find, guys?
No, we were just looking at the, it's not
We were magnifying it.
Yeah, magnifying it.
Sorry.
But I may be out looking for little 1-inch or 3/4-inch characters with fine detail in their faces so I can repeat something like this. Nice concept.
Fun stuff.
Wonderful.
Golden butterfly and a Gata Davida. That's Bill.
Oh, yes. And it is a tack sharp butterfly. It just really says, I am the subject, I am in focus, I have color, I contrast with the background so you see it. It's just nicely done until you start wandering off of the subject, and then you say, what's the purpose of the flowers on the right-hand side? What do they contribute to the subject? The maker did a very nice job of capturing this with a long lens so they didn't disturb the butterfly. Nicely stopped down. Still probably had some ISO range to play with so they could stop down more. I'm not sure that it is even needed. It's probably captured appropriately and needs little, if any, improvement. But the crop and the way the image is framed leads me to saying, okay, how would I change it? I like having the space in front of the butterfly, so I would probably find a way to edit the flower on the right-hand side, that cluster, and make it less prominent, and probably make the darker bits below the butterfly less prominent. Gary, I know you have some opinions here.
Yeah. So I think he's right. So first of all, I'm going to say, there it is.
Keep going.
Other way?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, there it is. Okay. First of all, again, color palette, love it, awesome. The warmth. I think that the maker has taken us to this scene and put us in it incredibly successfully. And so I'm all about the light and the color and the warmth here. I think is just wildly successful. The focus on the butterfly, super. It was this 600 millimeter lens on a micro four thirds, I think, a Fuji.
Equivalent 900 millimeter.
Yeah, which is micro four thirds, right? Okay. Okay. I'm going to second what Bill said as far as the crop goes. This all over here is unnecessary. This is unnecessary. I feel like the main point of this image is this area here. Crop to the subject. Leave enough to make sure you've got enough context. So this could be either a square or a 4x3 vertical crop. And I think it would be, as a tighter image, I think more to the point. We talked about this. I don't think we actually did the cropping, so I didn't experiment with it, but I would encourage the maker to think in terms of, have I left out things that are unnecessary? And I don't know whether they have or not, but again, we're nitpicking here. There's lots of great stuff in this image, so good job.
I love the image. It almost felt like his little dreamlike state. It really gave an emotional reaction to it for me. Oh,
Dream, yeah, good word. Yeah.
And it just felt like it was a fantasy. It's just lovely. And I actually kind of like the flowers because they go from a closer into a brightness, but then into phases to the ones on the right kind of start going out of focus, and it takes you back into the beautiful background there. So I like that. I did notice a little bit of softness. Unfortunately, you started losing a little bit of the focus as you got into not you as an individual, but generically, you started losing a little bit of the focus on the face as it got there, and then the wing in the back kind of starts dropping off, which it would be nice if it could have gotten it could have been just a little bit further, got a little bit cleaner focus on that head. But I mean, it's just, you can't look at this picture and not feel just some wonderful emotions. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're up on the anemone.
All right. This is one we had a lot of discussion on. There's some beautiful elements on this. And I'm gonna call it, I think it's the stamen, the middle part with all the pollen and all the center parts beautifully focused. You have some beautiful texture that leads into it from the left to the right that brings up into it. Colors are gorgeous. The one thing that started falling off for me was this petal right here started dropping into it and coming into the stamen, and it started cutting that off, and that is out of focus. It would be nice, and I don't know if they could have done it or not, I wasn't there, but if it could have shifted just a little bit to the left where you've got the whole thing in without it being cut off, to me that would have helped a little bit. But the coloration's beautiful, the focus is beautiful in the center part, a lot of good texture to it. Very nicely done, thank you.
I'm going to agree with most of what's been said here, if not all. There's a little bit of sharpness down in the bottom center that I might have done something to blur that out just so it doesn't pull your attention away from the center of the image and you're led from something in the lower left-hand corner that's sharp up through the center of the image that's sharp and then losing focus as you go out. So I look at this something as the focus was nicely controlled. There's room in the exposure triangle to get a little more depth of field. You could probably get another 2 stops out of that by pushing ISO, and that might make some people more comfortable with the rest of the image. Basically adding depth of field so you see a little more detail in the background.
So I think I found a lot of successful elements here. I'm going to disagree with Bill on, first of all, on the focus, because when you've got this in focus, you've got this in focus, you've got this in focus, you've got a triangle. And that's a good thing. And for me, my eye ends up hitting the triangle, landing back up here because that's where the highest contrast is, right? So that pollen down at the bottom with the ridges of the petal is in focus, but not heavily distracting from the stamens. And so I'm a fan.
I was looking for a diagonal. I didn't actually pick up on the triangle concept.
Yeah, so yeah, it's hard to think about all the options here. So I saw a triangle, but I get it. Yeah, the detail in the stamens is super. And, you know, typically I'm not a big fan of pollen, but I think it works here. I mean, flowers are all about sex. Let's just be honest. So that's what's going on here. John's point about the petal is spot on. It is unfortunate that it impinges upon the stamens. Other strong elements in this another super strong element in this is the light. Right, the way the light's coming in and casting those little shadows back here in the background it's just gorgeous. And then the maker has captured the color in a really super way, and you've got this, again, limited palette, right? You got two colors going on. You got dark purple and magenta, and that's it, right? And so the maker has done a great job of focusing on what's important in this flower, and for this image, shown us what the maker saw and wants us to look at. Okay, so I think this is a very successful image in many, many respects.
Just a nit. I don't understand what the number 2, anemone number 2 means.
Well, like pepper number 30? Oh, come on. Okay, Google pepper number 30 and do your homework, okay?
Yes, sir.
It may be the second one they shot. I don't know.
Next.
Okay, moving right along. This one's mine, right? Yeah, Railroad Watch. Okay. Cool subject. Awesome, cool subject. Really interesting. The detail in this is super. There's so much goodness in this shot that you just want to explore with your eye, all the things. And we spent quite a bit of time talking about this, so I'm gonna try to keep my comments limited. So lots of good stuff. The lighting here is a little harsh. It feels a little harsh, and so we've got some bright spots here that I don't find successful. Looking at this, yeah, over here. But the light that's there also illuminates lots of cool things like that spiral here, right, and getting the detail all in here with these little cogs. Lots of really cool things. It's the stuff like on this guy right here that I'm not necessarily a fan of per se, or this line up here on the edge.
Here, there's hot spots both on the top edge and the bottom edge.
Yeah.
So there's probably 2 lights.
Okay.
To get the uniform illumination.
Yeah. So for me, I think where the image falls short is that I think the crop is not appropriate. I've lost the fob on, I believe the fob on the right, okay, and getting that circle of the case right at the edge, not a fan. Okay, I want some room. I want some margin there, all right? We don't need to crop right at the edge if we can help it. And then the focus is really great throughout the entire image, but there's some blurriness through here where the case is just not actually in focus. And I find that a little distracting, but I don't know the specifics of how there's a shot, where it was shot. Did the maker have control over the environment? What? Okay, but lots of great stuff. Great story here. I just adore the serial number down here. I think it's fantastic that the serial number is visible. You know, it's just like, I want to go Google this whole thing, right, and find out more about this railroad watch. So anyways, lots of successful stuff.
I agree pretty much across the board. It was the kind of photo you spend time with. You're looking at it. You're looking at the detail, and the only I loved it. Wonderful. So this is nitpicking my part, but it's just the softness on the right kept throwing me off a little bit. It's just on this type of detail, when you're looking at something that's showing something mechanical and you're bringing it in, I think a full crisp photo would be important. But like I said, I think that's nitpicking my part. Overall, the subject matter was wonderful. It was ageless. It gave you the feeling of time, pun intended. And just everything about it was wonderful. Just that one element right there, and the crop, I agree, I felt was just a teeny bit too tight.
I want to look at this and have the mouse or have Gary drive it for me. When I looked at this, it was like, oh, wow. And it is so detailed. You can see see some of the jewels in it. You can see the brass in the escapement. You can see the work that the watchmaker put into the details of this thing. But in the center, and I cannot point it out right now, right about where, no, it's up in here, Gary.
Oh, I know it is right here.
It's in here.
There is a little thread right through there.
Or hair or something.
And a watchmaker just would not live with that.
Oh.
There it is.
There it is. It's got to go.
Once you dive this deep, you start nitpicking. It wouldn't take very many frames to make this focus stacked. It would probably stack in 10 or so. And the maker was apparently set up on a tripod because the shutter speed is very, very low. And then Mr. Motion just has to ask that the escapement wheel moves and blurred. That would take this image to the next order. It would take it right up there at a 95 or 100 if this was sharp and that wheel was ticking back and forth. I get to do the cat. Oh my goodness, how long did we work to coax this cat into coming and putting his face in the camera. It was shot with a strobe. You can see the catch lights. And just every hair is there and sharp, cropped in very tight. I've always had cats and tried to photograph them. If you shoot a cat with TTL in your strobe, they'll have their eyes closed for the exposure. They're that quick. I like the limit in the depth of field because as you get down in the neck, the fur becomes just white and you can't see the detail in it. The detail is in the eyes. It's the cat's eyes and nose that you just cannot escape. Gary?
Oh, so the detail in the eyes is everything. Is like absolutely critical for an animal. The symmetry is super. The crop is just excellent. Again, color palette, right? Limited color palette, absolutely everything. And even though the strobe appears to be a strobe that was on camera, you end up with this really nice, soft shadow down here beneath its chin, and that's great. I don't see anything really harsh anywhere, even though the light was clearly right there. I mean, it's a very short lens that they're shot with, so the maker was right up on the cat. Why the cat stood for this nonsense is beyond me, but super image.
I had one overwhelming problem with this picture, and that is I didn't take it, and I probably couldn't take it. It's just spectacular. Everything about the eyes are just, they just draw you in. Everything about it's just beautiful. Just thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
And you're up next.
Okay,
Probably not technically perfect.
Yeah. All right. Beautiful image. I love the background. It's just wonderful. The reds and greens in the background. A little bit dark on the dragonfly. Could have maybe be brought up a little bit. It looks like you've got some good detail in there. It's a little bit, for me, the flowers distracting because there's so much light on it, and it seems to be, it's a little out of focus, but it's also a bright, bright thing that distracts you away from the dragonfly. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's a beautiful catch.
This is another case where the maker went out and put effort into capturing the image. This is probably hours of effort to get here. But John's correct. The plant that we're landed on is sharper and brighter than the subject, or is as sharp and brighter than the subject. If I were editing this, I would try a select subject and brighten up the body of the butterfly and take down the brightness and the rest of it. I might crop in a little tighter to get rid of some of the distraction at the bottom of the image. But the background on this image is just absolutely beautiful.
So yes, 3 yeses for the background. Just awesome. Just awesome. We talked about the fact that the creatures, the insects' right side wings are here. Okay, they're in front, right? These are the left side wings back here. So you got some of that in focus, and the fact that these are over here, not in focus, it feels a little awkward, I think is maybe the word that might be appropriate. So it's just a little, not that it's a bad thing, it's just a little weird. It's a little unusual, unexpected. Absolutely agree with the fact that this stalk of the plant is the brightest thing here, and that the little dragonfly is darker. This is a great opportunity for the maker to work your post-processing skills. Selecting the dragonfly as the subject in Lightroom is a no-brainer to lighten him up, and then you could take a color selection with reds and greens for this guy and tone down the luminance to darken them a little bit, get the emphasis on the dragonfly instead of that background, right? Here, we're looking at the background, and I don't think the maker wants that. I think the maker wants to look at the dragonfly. So find a way to balance those two things. Bring that dragonfly forward, get that stalk and that background calmed down. It's beautiful. We don't want to lose it, but we don't want it to be the focus, because the title tells us, well, probably not technically perfect, but beautiful anyway. Maybe that's everything the maker wanted. I don't know. Okay, but it is. So lots of great stuff here. But I think that they left some money on the table.
This would be an opportunity to use a speed light off camera, permanently set up. If you know your subject is coming back to these plants, get that little bit of fill light in there, bring that subject up, and darken, and then you have even more to work with.
Yeah. So.
And photography like this is about collecting data in the field and processing it into a presentable image.
Is this one mine? Flamingo red. Yes, flamingo red. Okay, so this one's mine. I think it's our last one of the intermediate. Right. Okay. So again, beautiful color. Okay, thanks for bringing it up here, a little bit easier to see that. Again, limited color palette, green and magenta, fantastic. It's a great choice here. The focus on, I'm going to call it a stamen, I guess, or whatever the center of this particular flower is. I've got one of these growing at home and I still don't know the name of it. The focus on that is great, and I think that the maker wants us to look at this and kind of marvel at the texture and the detail. And yeah, I see the texture, I see the detail. I don't know what to do with it. Okay, so I think this is another case of you've got a beautiful flower here, but presenting it to the viewer in a way that imparts the feelings you had when you took the photograph. And I don't know that this was successful on that count. I don't know that having just the one part in focus versus the petal, for lack of a better term, is everything. I don't know where, I guess I'm saying, I don't know where I would go with this. I've tried doing this and I've had trouble with it, but I don't know that I'm getting what the maker intended here. And maybe that's on me, I don't know. But I think there are a lot of good things here, but I don't know that the maker was successful in imparting the feeling they had when they took the shot.
I have to agree a good bit. I personally, just from my standpoint, I'd like to have seen maybe the whole petal in focus. I think it looks like it was shot at f2.8, so you had room. You could have increased the depth of field a little bit. I think the color's nice. It looks like you have a little bit of a hot spot on the bottom right. Maybe could have toned that down a little bit. But I just felt that the depth of field could have been opened up a little bit and gotten more of the flower in focus. For me, maybe it would have been a little bit more successful. But it's beautiful colors. Thank you.
It was shot in a very dark environment, looking at the metadata. ISO 800, f2.8, 1/80th of a second. There's room to get a little bit more focus and maybe just do something with the bright hot spot on the bottom right-hand edge of the flower. But I see the detail in the stamen, but I'm left looking for more detail around the rest of the flower. You want to point that out, Gary?
Yeah, so.
This is both of those are hot spots to me.
Right.
And I would like to see the exposure matched across all of that. But a nice concept, a nice subject, just need to work the scene some more and maybe find a light source.
Yeah, I'm going to, final comment here. I don't know about anybody else. I like shooting flowers. I enjoy them very much. I find some flowers to be very, very challenging. Irises, I think, are difficult. I think orchids are incredibly hard. And I'm still working on trying to understand them. I think these guys are another one that are difficult to get. That doesn't mean you shouldn't, okay? But I think that some flowers are harder than others. And I think that warrants more effort, more exploration, more trial and error, more ideas. So yeah, go for it. Don't let that, but I don't think all flowers are equal when it comes to trying to photograph them. My opinion.
All right. All right. Now, since this was our largest group, we actually will have 4 images that are selected by the judges. The first is an honorable mention for Michael Knox. Third place goes to Ed.
Beautiful image, Ed. Beautiful.
Oh, thank you. This watch belonged to my great-grandfather, who was a railroad guy.
2 steps forward and you're in your...
I'm sorry?
Come 2 steps forward and you'll be in your
Okay.
seat. There you go.
Okay. The problem I had with this photo was the lighting. The problem is bringing out the colors and the texture. So I tried a bunch of different lighting setups. And finally, I had 2. One brought out the texture really well. The second one brought out the colors, so I merged them using the hard light merging thing. It's kind of a compromise. The picture with the texture is actually much better than this. And one with the color is much better. But anyway, this was a compromise.
Nice processing.
Okay, second place was John. Would you like to say anything about your picture? You've got your microphone.
So red-eyed tree frog, I found him sitting in my backyard. No. Yeah, right. This was an exotic, believe it or not, this was taken in a room in Kansas City Hilton, in the back room, and they brought out different exotic animals like dart frogs and snakes, and we're able to photograph them. This guy was my favorite. I photographed him a bunch. He just so much personality and so much fun to take. So, and I'm sorry if anybody's a purist and says, well, it's not natural. You can't.
No Costa Rica.
No Costa Rica. Sorry.
And first place goes to Rose.
Is Rose online?
Would you like to say anything, Rose? Oh, there we go.
It's really strange watching this on my iPad, and when my image comes up, the screen goes almost black. It's really strange. But anyway, my husband and I were babysitting the grandchildren in Tennessee, and this is one of their cats, and I just love to photograph the cats.
Cool. All right, thank you. Okay, now we will go through the viewer's choice, where we have 3 images that were selected. So the bronze goes to Larry.
Yeah.
Well, this just happened to be out in my backyard, and I was out taking pictures of some of the local birds flying around, and I had my 100-500, which I actually had on crop mode, which made this an effective 800 millimeters. And the way I cropped it was, he was on an ugly brick pillar on the left, and I wanted to crop it out, and I was really wanting to get his right front shoulder and foot. And there was, nothing else I could do, but it was cusp of the golden hour in the evening.
Okay, silver goes to Shelton. Can they hand you the mic and you can tell us a little about your picture?
So I was in Trinidad, and every morning I'd get up and sit on my mom's porch and photograph birds. One morning I got out there and her snake plant was covered in these guys. Went back inside, swapped out my lenses, came back, and most of them hopped away immediately as I got close. These 2, I think, said, I'm just not gonna move, he's not gonna notice me. And I carried that camera right up as close as possible to them. These guys are just about 1 centimeter big. So I was just, shocked by the size of them and that I was able to get this much of a shot of them. So.
All right, thank you. And the gold medal went to John and his tree frog. Okay, cool. Now we're into our last category, and that's the advanced, and there's just 4 images submitted this time. Resting or recovering?
That's mine.
That's yours.
No, we're not talking, we're just going through it quick, and then you can talk. Okay, Warren Cog, Come and Get Me. Bottom of the sea or branch of a tree?
beautiful image, nice capture.
Microphone.
Oh, I put it down. I need to hold on to it. The maker may have given up a little bit of aperture here, and that would have probably brought the stop down just another stop, would have brought this bee into focus. It would have really helped nicely. The color palette is great. It could be cropped a little tighter, even leaving the little bit of black in the upper right-hand corner wouldn't bother me, but I would tend to move the flower and the bee to the lower left and crop off above that. But the sharpness is in the right places in this image. The color makes it very clear what our subject is. See, yeah, the additional depth of field up to F11 would have probably helped. And I think as close as you are to this subject, it wouldn't have negatively affected the background. Gary or John? Go ahead.
Just spectacular. The colors are beautiful. The bee is just, it's so much interest in it with so much texture in the hairs. The eyes pop out. I agree a little bit. It would have been nice to get just a teeny bit more of the depth of field, but otherwise just a fabulous image. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'm going to just go with what Bill was saying about the black area, the dark area. I think that it's maybe a little distracting. I think that in this particular case, I feel like the story is what is important here. Why is this bee laying on a flower? And so at least I'm going from the title, and that to me seems to be really the crux of the image. But I agree, more depth of field would be definitely a better thing, and maybe darkening the background, I think might help that yellow pop a little bit more. But yeah.
That's nitpicking.
Oh, yeah, we're nitpicking, yeah. So.
Okay. All right. I actually like this a lot. I love the coloration. I thought, I'm trying to bring it up on the computer.
Get your microphone too.
Microphone.
I enjoy this a lot, the coloration. I thought that they really complemented each other, the background with the brass look to it. I like the industrial look to the photo. It gave, you could feel the photo. It just had some emotion attached to it. It just said such a story that took you down the road to look and try to figure out what this was, what it went with. The area that I had a little bit of struggle with is it dropped out of focus all up in this area here. And this type of, and then a little bit down here and here, and along the back edge. And in an industrial, and I call it industrial, shot like this, I would have expected pretty much everything to be pretty pin sharp for this type of photo, but I just thought it had such a story to tell and such emotion, and I liked the coloration. It was a very successful photo.
Go ahead.
I recognize this immediately as a worn bicycle sprocket. So I know that it's only maybe 2.5, 3 millimeters thick. It's a very planar subject. And being that planar, I would like to see every bit of it tack sharp and in focus. And the maker left quite a bit of aperture on the table. We could have stopped down to F8, F16, and picked up the sharpness John's looking for. The colors work very nicely together. I like the gold of the sprocket and the pink of the pinkish gray of the background. It's nice.
So, everything they said, technically getting your plane of focus to match the plane of the item in this case can be very challenging. Depth of field, tighter aperture can help with that, absolutely. As a bicycle sprocket, I'm going, why isn't it black? I don't understand why it's this color, but I think it's awesome.
Different maker.
Okay. I was low budget growing up. They were all black. I think this is a striking example of somebody seeing something very commonplace and going, look at this, and doing a great job to get you to look at it. So this is a wildly successful for me in doing that. My only nitpick is this circle over here. That is annoying. Okay, clone it out or crop a little tighter and get rid of that because that doesn't belong there. But everything else about this is fantastic. So kudos to whoever did this. Oh, still me. Okay, we have a spider. Okay. Again, limited color palette, woohoo! I think that's something that goes with macro photography. Love the orange, the pops of orange are fantastic. I think really interesting. The plane of focus is what's interesting here. I think, and it's hard to tell from this little guy, but I think that its little head is raised up. I think we're seeing fangs, all right? I don't see any eyes here, but maybe I'm just missing them, okay? But the plane of focus is getting what I think are the fangs and some of the legs, and you can see in the ground here where that plane of focus is and what legs are landing there, which I think is great. What I'm bothered by is that I want these guys to be in focus, these two forelegs, and they're not. And I realize technically that's probably not even possible unless you're from a completely different angle, right? You're up above and getting the plane of focus angled instead of vertical. So it's a little weird to me, a little awkward, and so I don't know if that's really a successful thing, but that's just me, my opinion. I think the detail is fantastic, and I like seeing stuff like this because it shows us a world that we're not typically in on, right? Because we don't see things this tiny. So a lot of interesting stuff here, and I thought a lot of really good elements in this image.
I agree. I thought it was fascinating. It's something different, something you don't see every day. I did struggle a little bit with the front arms being a tad bit out of focus and a little bit on the focus. I thought the detail in the face was very nice. All in all, I just thought it was very successful. And I think it could have, is it?
Yeah, it's a little wonky.
Yeah, it could have maybe been leveled a little bit more because it looks like it drops off to the left a little bit. That's just nitpicking, but I thought it was beautiful, enjoyed it. Thank you.
Picking up on the leveling, I'm not sure whether the left side is low or high. If I look at the plane that the spider's on, the left side's probably a little high versus the spider's legs, which are the right side's high. But I love the sharpness in the face and where it leads me into this woolly tarantula that is truly menacing and truly saying, come and get me. But the one edit that I would do to this is I would clean up, or I would actually select the bottom or whatever the floor is, the ground that the spider's standing on, and take the focus off of that. Just add some blur to it so that it is less of a distraction, so your eye never goes to that sharp, because your eye is always going to go to what's sharp. And once I started looking at this image, I could never get away from the pavement the spider's walking on.
And go.
Bottom of the sea or branch of a tree. Real work went into this. It's a low shutter speed, moderately high ISO. I don't have the aperture. The camera probably didn't capture it for us. But it has to be stopped down because there is so much depth of field. Things I have a problem with, and the primary one is I don't know where the subject is. I can't identify a subject. Gary, you want to hand me that mouse for just a second?
Yes, sir.
Is this little bit of color the subject? Is this sharp spot over here the subject? There's sharpness here. This is not blown out. It has detail in it, but it's very, very bright, so your eye goes to this bright horizontal subject, and there's nothing there to hold your attention. The maker did a nice job of capturing this. There's good depth of field out throughout it. It looks like there is a gradient of light in the background, or the background material provided the gradient. Nicely captured. Put a little fish in there so I have a subject to focus on. Wait where he swims by. Yeah, a little tiny shrimp would be. Beautiful image.
So, what he said, again, color palette, very limited, very nice. You got your blues and your oranges, so very classic, complementary colors, very cool. I don't really understand the background. I feel like the background is just spill light from whatever's lighting the subject or the foreground, and I'm not sure, it doesn't appear intentional to me. I could be wrong. I agree with Bill. It's like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking at. I see texture, and I'm going to steal this back. For me, this part right here would make a more interesting image because then it would be about texture. Okay, so I think that this is a case of you've got some interesting things in this image that might be more interesting images, maybe. Hard to know. But that's how I'm feeling. But yeah, good detail, but lack of clarity in intent for me.
Don't have much to add. I think that I look for a story, and I'm having trouble finding it in there. As Gary said, I wonder. It looks like there may be some different crops in there that could have brought in and brought something different. It did feel a little blown out in the main part at the bottom, but there's so many successful things in there, and the technical end of it, it's very nice. Thank you.
All right, now we're coming to the judges' pick for this, and there's so few images that there's only one, so the first place goes to Gary.
I try to be careful about my comments when I'm talking about this. But for me, the image was about story. I found this little guy in the sunken garden up in San Gabriel Park, just laying there breathing. You could see his little abdomen moving. He was breathing. And he was just laying there, and I don't know what was going on, whether he'd been hurt, poisoned, what. But it's like not much I can do for the little bee. I didn't work the scene. I'm guilty. I did not work the scene with depth of field or anything, and I should have. I could have taken more time. We all need to learn from that. But yeah, it was just happened to cross him while I was shooting in the garden one day, and it's like, I don't know what's going on here.
All right, and now our last ones, the viewer's choice. So the bronze goes to Nick. Can you hand the microphone back?
This is obviously a worn bicycle cog, and quite simply, it was given to me mounted on a wooden plinth for some achievement in a series of spin classes. So it was sitting on the edge of my desk and caught my eye, and the rest is history.
All right, thanks. Okay, silver goes to Dennis. Okay. Here's the microphone.
So this was taken in a parking lot on the top of Mount Scott in the Wichita Mountains in Oklahoma. I'd been taking a bunch of morning shots of the sunrise, and I was walking back to my car, and oh, there's a tarantula. But he wasn't sitting still very long, and I'd laid down on the ground flat, my camera on the ground, and he was coming at me pretty fast. And that's why I got the best focus I could. Every time I tried to move back, he would run at me, so I was like, oh, crap. The orange light, I'm not sure about that, because that's the way it came out, and I think the sun was just breaking out above the hills, and you were catching the morning light on the spider. I couldn't, those aren't actually his eyes, I don't think, but they just glowed. But anyway.
Lots of trenches in Oklahoma.
Okay, and then gold medal goes to Gary.
When I saw this picture, I knew who took that shot.
Pardon?
When I saw this picture, I said, that's got to be Gary's.
All right, as every meeting that we have, I say we're looking for judges. So if there's anyone that would like to volunteer now to judge the next competition, which is motion, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, let me know. And especially if there's anyone that hasn't judged before that would like to try judging for the first time. Some of the people that have judged for the first time keep coming back for more. So it's definitely a good experience. Okay, is there any other business? Do you have any? Okay, take a microphone.
Okay, was it 2 weeks ago? A bunch of you were here while we took photographs of you and fun things like that. We had 2 different setups. Really had a good time doing it. All the electrons ran away. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so all the pictures are, I have them all on one computer, and hopefully by tomorrow, or at least by the end of the weekend, I will have them out to everybody, okay? So Bill got his over to me, and I've got mine, and so we'll get them all. I'll get them out. They're Dropbox links, and so you'll get them in a couple of days.
So are you going to send a Dropbox link to each person with a folder that has all the pictures of that person in it, or is it going to be just one link that goes to everything for the people that were there?
No, it's going to be individual.
Individual pictures?
Individual Dropbox links to, like, one for you.
Okay.
One for Clay, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sharing pictures with everybody. I figured some people didn't want to, they were a little bit of, like, I don't want to be here. Click, 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 click.
Okay. Okay.
So
just look for those emails later in the week, maybe.
In the next couple of days, I'll get it out.
The images I gave Patrick are just raw files off of Z9, so you're on your own to crop it and to process it any way you want to.
Right, yeah, exactly. They're going to be just raw files. So you can.
So is there a timeline that you want everyone to download the pictures by so you can take them off of your Dropbox?
Well, that would be nice.
Like 2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. At the worst case, the end of August, if you wouldn't mind, because it does take up a lot of space at 50 megs per image. And I think between...
So this is all raw files, so you can download them and do what you want, but they're not...
Do what you want with them.
I mean... Yeah, straight from the
each
camera.
image is about 50 megs, give or take. And I think I get a little happy with the trigger, so I shot around 200, and Bill, I think, shot around 70-something.
Correct.
So we've got close to 300 images at 50 megs apiece. Yeah, my Dropbox is going to be dying here, so, yeah, just wanted to let you know, so thank you.
The other thing that you could do is if you've received your pictures and you download them all, you could let him know that you've gotten all yours so he could remove that right away. Dropbox and large volumes of stuff becomes an issue, and so it is good to get that cleared out when you can. Yes.
Hey guys. So on our photos today, a lot of those were great photos, but macro's a little different. And to get all the things that you want in focus, you have lots of technical things, and I don't use technical words, forgive me, but you have a 3D object and your plane of focus. You can't get all of it in focus, so you will have to photo stack for the macros. So if you're taking those macro photos, you're not getting the pictures you want, that's what you're gonna need to do is take multiple photos of the same image and stack those images to get everything you want in focus for your picture that you want focused on. That is the big difference in macro and regular photo. But a lot of those were excellent photos. And so when they were talking about this part of the image needs to go away or that image, if you like your photo, that's great, because a lot of those were great photos. But for macro, the subject needs to fill your screen, and that is what they were talking about. And so you have to be conscious of the area of focus. So the microphone that I'm holding now, it is a 3D object. Not all of it would be in focus, and I'd probably have to take and stack several photos of it, or only part of it would be in focus because of the plane. And that's something to think about when you do macro.
Well said. Would you be willing to judge next meeting?
Hell no.
You're good at this. You're good at this. And by the way, the picture that was of the lichen on a branch, that's over 100 pictures focus stacked to get that all sharp. The one that was like, I put a blue background behind it because when I first saw it, I was just sort of amazed at how much it looked like coral or something. And that was, the whole distance shown there is about 1 centimeter. So it is at 2x in focus stacked. All right.
Let's show our appreciation for the judges.
Thank you all for coming.